It's Marianah Lawrence. Ja, Marianah Lawrence hier met Kuns en Vermaak, art and entertainment. And we are here at the Mandela Bay Theatre Complex where the Isakhona Awards were awarded, and I have got one of the most interesting, I want to say interesting, but to me outstanding, because she is an artist living with disability. And of course the Isakhona winners all become fellows, Isakhona fellows. So you are Isakhona fellow now.
I want to be referred to as a Isakhona lady.
I know.
There's nothing fellowish about me.
But unfortunately it's the word
I don't
fellow.
Understand why we're forced to be fellows.
I wonder
anyway.
why they kept it fellow, because a fellow is supposed to be just someone who's a co-holder in something at universities. It's what they use at universities.
Yeah.
And it's always baffled me that the lady professors, when they've got a certain degree, then they become a fellow.
A fellow.
Yeah, it's weird. But anyway, we're together on that one.
Yeah.
Truly. But now tell us, I know you, and on Facebook you are Poetic Soul.
Yes.
And you're by Mahambehlala. So if people look for you on Facebook, Poetic Soul,
Poetic Soul Mahambehlala.
Mahambehlala.
Yeah. If they're looking for my work, it's Poetic Soul Love House.
Love House, that's the other one.
That's the
I
page.
know of that as well. Now tell us about living with disability, because that's another interesting story you have.
So I wasn't born with a disability. If I was born with one at all, it must have been, I don't know.
You didn't know about
crazy. Yeah.
Because you were perfect.
Yeah, no, I wasn't born with a disability. I lost my sight in 2013. At that time, I already had 10 years working as a performance poet and starting to working as a planner as well, an entertainment events planner. So I lost my sight 10 years in, and I won this award 10 years later. So I'm out just celebrating my 20 years. I can really tell you nothing hectic about living without my sight or living with a disability. It's just that my eyes don't work. So I don't know what else I can really tell you about it, because I've found a way to work with it, to immerse myself in trying to be able to do everything that I want to do. And so that's what I do.
And you've adapted.
Yeah.
You've totally adapted, and I find it so interesting and amazing that you're doing that. And you said your phone talks.
Yes.
When I send you a WhatsApp, then your phone talks to you.
Yeah.
It translates my writing into something you can hear.
Into audible, yes.
That is so amazing. But now first tell us, because I think Love Child was there first, or was the Poetic Soul there first?
Okay, so there's so many people with the word love as a prefix. So when we started out, I started working as Poetic Soul, and then I put my work together with a few friends, Bantu and Zika, and we became Love Loud, and we worked with the then Opera House to organize events for them. And then later when Bantu moved to Germany and Zika moved to Joburg, we disbanded Love Loud, and I formed a company called Love House. That's where Poetic Soul Love House comes from. That's because I wanted to keep the idea of Love Loud still alive, and for the three of us to keep having reference to where we all started. And Love House then refers to the place I used to live at, which was my flat in Central. It was a home for everyone who was in the arts. They would come, sleep over, we would make food, eat together, break bread, create, have jam sessions in that flat. So it became the Love House of Art.
I actually remember that, and I think that's also at the time when I met you at the Opera House, when it was still the Opera House. And did I see you also in a play where your sight was impaired, you couldn't see, but you were not acting a blind person? It was at the South End Museum.
I was acting a blind person. The entire play was not written about me, but my loss of sight influenced the writer to pen that story. It was written by Lelethu
Mahambehlala.
Yeah, who's a choreographer. So it was very nice working with her, because I got to move my body, I got to shake and create, I got
dance,
to do
because
all
she's a
sorts of
dancer.
Yes, I got to do a lot. She really challenged me, and I absolutely enjoyed it.
I remember that very well, seeing you on stage.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember if you were a sighted person or not, because I remember you moving around.
Yes.
And that's kind of confusing because Dancing, I think. Dancing.
Yes. Yeah, no, I was acting a lady who had also lost her sight, but right at the end, she gains her sight back.
Yes.
Yes, I want to believe it was quite prophetic of Liver. Maybe one day my sight will return.
Absolutely. God who does the miracles, and it's up to Him.
Yes.
Yes, it's totally up to Him. So it's so nice to be able to do your stuff. So now your poetry, you still continue.
I still write my poetry. I perform to a limited extent now. I do more corporate events and those special ones of performances, but I'm not chasing every stage anymore. I think I've grown beyond that phase of my life. So I take bookings and I do that. And when I feel the need to go and speak to maybe school children through poetry, I do that. But most of my time now is taken up by designing different concepts to develop the arts, to find new artists and to open up the space so that we can see more people, hear more voices that are new, fresh and relevant to this time.
Yes, it's very important because I also think that people who are older, I mean, I'm much older than you, but you're like one of my daughters.
Yeah.
But both of us, we like to put the spotlight on the young people and make sure they're seen because it's so important and it's difficult now because COVID, first of all, messed it up. It was difficult before COVID for the performing arts arena.
That's true.
To get finances and for people to earn anything. And then, of course, COVID hit and it became terrible. Now we're gaining track a little bit again, which is super, but it's still not like something you have to almost have a side job or you have a main job and it must be your... So how do you survive? Because if people then want to get hold of you for events, talking about event planning.
Yes, as I say, it's more entertainment events. So I design concepts. Also, I do project management for Abantu Development Agency, and I do project planning and conceptualizing for my company, which is Poetic Soul Love House of Entertainment. The main idea is really just to open up the space and to make the Eastern Cape as exciting as possible. I'd say that's my full-time hustle, and my side gig is, of course, performances, engaging with different clients as a performer myself. But our main vision, because the two companies are like sister companies, which is Abantu Development Agency and Poetic Soul Love House of Entertainment, the big idea is to open up the Eastern Cape, make it as exciting as possible, and do things that nobody thinks are possible to come out of the Eastern Cape, and have our young people believing in themselves, have our young people freeing themselves in the mind and understanding that they can do so much within the space that a lot of people regard as limited. So that's my main goal right now. So how do I still express myself poetically? By allowing others to express themselves poetically.
Yes, and sometimes you write the poetry.
No, I never write poetry for them.
They have to, you encourage them to do their own poetry.
And I will just train in terms of how you stand on stage, how you perform, how to brand yourself and take care of your career as well. But my thing is not to write poetry for others. If you're a creative, you'll take it all the way.
Wonderful. And also, of course, as you say, from the Eastern Cape, we have our John Carney's, of course, we had our Winston, our Nomsley. They've all gone long before, and they're all from here. And then we've got now people performing all over. Yeah. I mean, we've got younger people performing on cruise ships, performing. Our Shireen Stroner, Shireen Ferreira, she was in Cats for 10 years in Korea. People like that, they were all from here. She was in grade 1 in Herzl and did her drama and singing with Robin Williams. Lots of Robin Williams students are now in other countries. Yeah. And the good stuff comes from the Eastern Cape. Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned it. But now what I want to know from you, because I don't know how old you are now.
I'm 41.
It's quite amazing at 41 what you're doing and what you actually have achieved. And the Isakhona award, of course, is for doing it all in spite of your disability. So it's been noticed. But you didn't just decide one day, oops, I want to be a poet. So how old were you when you actually realized that I can actually do poem? And I like it.
I think I didn't realize that I could write poems first. I realized first that I liked standing on a stage and reciting poems, because it started off with
Stedfords,
those recitations.
Like
yes. So I started off, I want to remember the very first one I had to recite. It was all things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful. The Lord God made them all, each little flower that opens.
Amen.
And that's where I started. And then I followed up with me narrating plays. When the other kids were doing their play, I would narrate what happens then to Cinderella. Off she walks, and. So that's where it started. I started off by getting to know and understand and appreciate the feeling of having other people watching me and appreciating what I was doing. And that was my first addiction.
Yes. That was almost your drug.
Yeah. As I say, that was my first addiction.
Yes.
And the love of writing came later because it was being honed by teachers at school. We were writing essays and so it grew. To stand on a stage and recite my poetry that I had written was only when I was in my first year, I think 2003 in NMU. That was the first time I stood on a stage and I recited my poetry.
I just want to say here that we in the center, this is the Mandela Bay Theatre Complex in Cape Road where we are. You hear the noise in the center because it's quite a noisy and a busy place, this.
It's an artistic hub.
It's an artistic hub, yes. And this is just people coming and going. So they're going up the stairs, down the stairs. And because it's a very old building, so the timber is old and it's creaking, but it's so beautiful to look at. But yes, you can imagine it, Lelethu, because it's like an oak. Look, it's beautiful, really, this step that we can hear creaking when they walk up and down. And now looking for the future, because look, we're in a new year. And as I say, COVID laid us all low. And then I think 2023 was a challenging year for everyone. Now we're in beginning of 2024. What can we look forward to from Lelethu and the poetic soul?
I think really just more of the same thing in terms of production quality, in terms of putting together great, memorable events, programming as well. It's really me just running around still trying to ensure that we don't take ourselves lightly. So I'm getting ready to push more of my events, the programs. I started a poetry project last year called Lelethu Poetry Project. That will still carry on. We need to discover 6 more poets from the Eastern Cape that will make the Eastern Cape shine. I am hoping to be able to finally get it onto TV if I can have that kind of influence to be able to get it up there. But that's really it. Just making sure that whatever seed was planted in the previous years, I water it to growth even more, because there's a point where you don't need to start anything new, but you need to make sure that whatever you've planted, it lives on.
Exactly, because God created the arts. He created poetry and music and song and the visual arts and the sculpting talents and everything. So we just have to make it shine. And I'm so glad that you're continuing. You are on Facebook as Poetic Soul.
Poetic Soul Mahambehlala.
And it's Mahambehlala. So they must just remember Hamba and then they get to Mahambehlala. And then it's Shlala. And are you also on all the other things like TikTok and what
I wish
what
I
else?
could answer you honestly. I don't know. I do have people running such things for me, but I don't. I don't focus on it. I don't have time. To
But I mean, do they then they use your Poetic Soul?
They should be using Poetic Soul Love House for you. And if they search for Poetic Soul Love House everywhere
and Love House, Poetic Soul Love House.
Yeah, I know that the Instagram one is the other way around at Love House Poetic Soul, but for the most part, it's Poetic Soul Love House everywhere.
If they type in Poetic Soul or Love House,
should find it.
And then they can find it on Instagram, they can find it on probably TikTok, who knows? They can
I really am not a social media.
And I'm so glad that you have the people to help you do that. I'm, of course, a granny, so I'm a fossil where these systems are concerned.
I mean, I understand the importance, but it's a lot of work. It's a whole other department in your organization.
And I
that you
think
have to
also when you're
well.
autistic, maybe you're not always that technical. And so on.
Yeah, it's not even the technicalities, it's just the time that it takes to, it's a full-time job when you have to understand that at a particular time you must strategically say something. When something happens, you must be able to react quickly. You must be posing for pictures every now and again. Things that I don't really have time for, because my thing is I'm called for the arts, for expression. I'm called for discovering new voices and new talents. That's the main thing about me. And I don't necessarily need to gloat about it. I just need to do the work and let the people see the results. result. And that's my main focus. So I think that's why I don't pay much attention to social media, but I understand the importance of it. And that's why I do have people that will always inform people of what's going on, and they will do it in their own way. I always say, let the electrician make the city alight, let the poet make the hearts heal.
Amen. And that is so important, and I'm so glad you said all of that. And what a good note to end on. Thank you so much. Blessings to all of us for 2024. I'm so looking forward to seeing more, and I want to say watch this space to everybody. So thank you, Lelethu.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
It's a great, great pleasure. We have to say goodbye now from me, Marianah Lourens, and Art and Entertainment. Ek moet nou groet Marianah Lourens met Kuns en Vermaak. Arrivederci.